Hey everybody, today we've got this big but unsurprising story out of Illinois. Five-term U.S. Senator Dick Durbin is going to retire next year, so he's going to join four other senators not running for re-election. And that's going to set off a big primary battle in this blue state for the upcoming midterms. So we'll take a look at the race, we'll take a look at Durbin's previous wins, and we'll see the last time the Republicans won a race here. So we're going to scroll down here on this article from New York Times. All the links will always be down below in the description. Now, Durbin, first elected in 1996, he's been the second in command, the Democratic majority whip for the past 20 years. So Durbin is well established, he's considered to be consequential. So if you're a big Durbin fan, of course, you're going to view this as a loss. But at some point, you got to hang it up. Durbin is 80 years old. He's already won 5 terms. What better time to retire unless you're looking to pull a Chuck Grassley and serve into your mid-90s? So per usual, these senators always say it's not an easy decision, but they want to pass the torch on to a new generation, yada, yada, yada. And as we head closer into the next midterm season, which should be a little bit favorable for the Democrats, they're going to have to decide what direction they're going to go in. Are they going to go more moderate? Or are they going to get more progressive? Now, that wouldn't be the big question if Republicans were expected to also be competitive for this race. But now that it's an open seat, does the GOP really stand any kind of a chance here? No, not really. It's a blue state. Democrats are amped up to go after Trump. All of the attention is going to be on the side of the Dems. So this could actually be a pretty big, intense, bruising primary battle. Or in the end, one Democrat could pretty much clear the race. That's also a possibility. Lots of time left for things to develop. Now, you can keep reading about Durbin here in New York Times if you'd like. But we're going to move on to Wikipedia and take a look at the state of this race. So given that this is fairly fresh news, there's probably going to be a lot of changes over the next few days and the next few weeks. So we can go down here and take a look at the list of the candidates. Now, as I said at the beginning, this news is not exactly a bombshell. Durbin is already 80. He's been in there a long time. Behind the scenes, Democrats have been preparing for this. So we've got one candidate already declared. That's going to be the Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton. Now, there's almost no chance that she's the sole Democrat that gets into this race. We've got several names listed that have either publicly expressed interest or are listed as potential candidates. Now, this is Illinois. Everybody thinks of Chicago. It's deep blue, and it is. So pretty much all of these candidates are either from that area or the immediate surrounding vicinity. There's a lot of red territory in this state, but the power for the Dems has mostly been concentrated around that Chicago area. So given it's up in the air who's going to be in, who's going to be out, I think it's going to be a little too early to seriously look into these candidates. But again, there could be a divide between a more progressive and a more establishment moderate candidate. I'm sure as with any primary, they're all going to talk tough, they're all going to try to sound more progressive and be a resistance to Trump. I don't expect too many to sound overly moderate given the current political power dynamics. But they're going to have to find some way to differentiate themselves in a potentially crowded primary field. So a huge list of candidates. Let's go down here. We've got one thing to point out. It says decline to endorse. It's going to be outgoing Senator Dick Durbin. Looks like he's not going to put his thumb on the scale. I get it. He doesn't want to choose sides. He wants the party to ultimately be united against Trump and the Republicans. But at the same time, it'd just be nice to see somebody put out an endorsement for who they want to be their successor. Now, we do have one hypothetical poll here. It's not that old. This is from the end of March. This is from 314 Action, and it's a primary poll. And the leader at the time here was Lauren Underwood. She's in the lead with 33%. She's more moderate. Again, she's from outside the Chicago area. She's also only 38 years old. But given the changing dynamics of the race, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more polls over the next 6 months with a lot of different candidates as things get more settled. So that's the Dems, but they're technically only half of this equation. We've also got the Republicans. Now, whenever we take a look at a race that is pretty much going to be dominated by one side, there's not a whole lot of point in going in depth on the minority political party, but there's not that many Republicans of note at this point in Illinois. There are a few candidates that have expressed interest or are listed as potential, and there's one declared candidate here, John Goodman, who does not even have his own Wikipedia page. But just like the Dems, Republicans also have to decide on which direction they want to go. In the past, we've seen more moderate Republicans have success in the state. However, ever since Trump's first term, there does seem to be a split between those more moderate classic Republicans and the Trump base. As such, there is an appetite for the Trump base in this state. The problem is they're mostly drowned out by more moderate Republicans or Democrats. In order for the Republicans to be competitive in this election, they would need to have Democrats nominate an extremely controversial and unpopular candidate, and Republicans would pretty much need a rock star, which I don't really see either happening. So down here, the race is rated as safe Democrat. That's also my rating, even on a best case scenario for the Republicans. Now let's quickly go through Durbin's electoral history in the U.S. Senate. Now, his most recent win here was in 2020, and there's nothing competitive about this race. He won it 55 to 39, and if you're unfamiliar with this map, there's again going to be a lot of red counties on here, but most of the population lives in the Northeast. Those are the blue counties, and at this point, they're not light blue, they're moderate to dark blue. Now, if we go back 6 more years, we've got 2014. This was a Republican-leaning environment, but Durbin again won by double digits. It's just under 11 points. Now, at this point, this was before Trump, and you can see some of these counties surrounding Chicago, they're not blue anymore, they're actually red. That starts to go back to the era where the suburbs were more moderately Republican. If Republicans are going to want to have success in this state, they're going to have to do better in the suburbs. There's just no way around it. It's tough for them to do significantly better in Chicago itself, but in order to have success, you've got to win where all the people are. Let's go back 6 more years. We've got 2008. Now, this was a big blue year. This was when Obama was first elected. So this was a total blowout landslide for Durbin. He won by 39 points in nearly every county is blue. There was no chance for Republicans to be competitive on this one back in 2008 when Obama was on the ballot. Now, 4 years before that, we've got 2002. And now this was a long time ago, but Durbin is still eclipsed 60% here. And this map is actually only a little less blue than 2008. So before that, we've got Durbin's first win back in 1996. Now, this was a totally different political era. Republicans back then did have a lot of success statewide, but Democrats did better federally. And in this open seat, Durbin won with 56%. Back then, in the southern part of the state, you do get a lot more blue counties. Rural counties back then were not dark red for Trump like they are today. So that's how Durbin got started in the Senate. So before that, he was in the U.S. House. And whether or not you like the label, he's a career politician. Now, we can also look at the most recent Senate results here. The last election was in 2022, the midterms. And here we've got a similar margin. Tammy Duckworth wins re-election with 56.8%. And now you see a lot of the counties outside of the Northeast here are red, and a lot of them are dark red. So what about the Republicans? When's the last time they won a Senate election here, or were even competitive? Well, you actually don't even have to go back that far. We're just going to go back to 2010. That was a huge red Republican midterm. Now, there was a concurrent special election at the same time, but the moderate Republican Mark Kirk was victorious here with 48%. And take a look at this map. Almost every county is red on here, except for notably Cook County. Now, the most notable thing about this election is Republicans won this seat, but this was actually the Barack Obama seat. That's what the special election was for, but Kirk also won the next 6-year term here as well. So that goes to show you how fast things can change. 2008, Obama and Democrats had massive success here, but just 2 years after that, in Obama's home state, his Senate seat actually flips red, and that's one of the most peak embarrassing election results over the past couple of decades. The others that come to mind are Republican Scott Brown winning in Massachusetts and Democrat Doug Jones winning in Alabama. It's hard to believe today, but that is exactly what happened back in 2010. So that's kind of where we're at. And again, here's this story about the lieutenant governor entering the race. So it's been a long career for Durbin, but I'm not at all surprised he's decided to call it quits. I would expect there to be a lot of action in that primary for the Dems. Is it all just going to blend together and they're going to be anti-Trump, or are there going to be some unique voices that cut through the noise? For the GOP, it pretty much doesn't matter what they do, but for their sake, it'd probably be best if they rallied around one strong candidate. But even that, I think, would be tough for them to get this race down to a single-digit margin. But at the same time, it seems almost impossible for the Republicans to have won the same Senate seat as Obama just 2 years after he got elected president. So that's a look at Durbin retiring in this U.S. Senate race in Illinois. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about Durbin? What do you think about the primary for the Dems? Who do you think is going to replace him? What about the Republicans? What direction should they go in? And do they have any chance in the upcoming national environment? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.